This is just unbelievable, guys. You read the title correctly. You probably already saw some headlines about it or watched other YouTube videos about this, but I had to see it myself. And yes, Grand Theft Auto 3 is playable on the Sega Dreamcast. All the footage in this video is captured straight from my Dreamcast. Perhaps I shouldn't be overly surprised since the game did originally start life on the Dreamcast but was shifted to the PS2 after a few months due to the way the wind was blowing in the industry. It was moved for commercial reasons, not because they thought the Sega console couldn't handle it. It can handle it alright, just about. I tell you, I have not played the original PS2 version for probably more than 20 years now, but this took me back. It is not a perfect port, which I'll get into soon, but I would certainly have been very satisfied if I did have this on my Dreamcast back in the day, and it makes me think of what could have been. The people who made this have probably done a better job than those remasters Rockstar butchered a few years back on modern consoles. You have to take into account this port was made by hobbyists, just a couple of people I think, maybe one or two, with a passion. It's not perfect in this iteration, but just imagine if it had a Rockstar team working on it full time back in the day, with money and manpower to polish off the rough edges. Imagine the possibilities. Yes, the frame rate is not fantastic. Some of the cutscenes are out of sync and have more ghosting than a haunted house. But hey, even then, this is now a top 10 game for the Dreamcast. I would happily play this, even if it's probably the most convoluted way to play a video game since someone tried porting Doom to a pregnancy test. And the best thing is, this is just an alpha build. The team who worked on it are striving for even better compatibility and performance, which would be nice for most people, but as someone who grew up with a Nintendo 64 and its frame rates, it really hasn't bothered me that much at all. I'm the kind of person who is purposely rocking composite out for that genuine childhood memory look. Performance and visuals, it's okay for me, but it is the small things that have bothered me the most. Oh, by the way, I should probably tell you that because it is a fan project, they've had to keep things legal, and so if you want to play this, you have to build the Dreamcast version yourself from a legally purchased copy of GTA 3. You have to buy Grand Theft Auto 3 from Rockstar's web store and then insert the patch made by these guys in order to transform it into a Dreamcast game. So you can put your cement mixer away, it's digital building. As someone who is technically inept, this terrified me, but the process was quite simple. There is a good enough tutorial online that even my bad luck when it comes to technical things, it worked just fine. I believe the game does not work well with emulators at this point, and burning to a disk is risky due to slower data reading. That is me making stuff up. I really don't know, I just heard that discs don't perform well, and that's my made up theory. But on my GDEMU-equipped Dreamcast, it works. Mostly. In fact, at first, it didn't work, and I was convinced I'd ballsed up the process. But it turns out that, one of the quirks about the Dreamcast, very, very weirdly and very rarely, but this has happened to me before, some games do not enjoy a third-party controller being plugged in, or a third-party VMU. After I took out my Mad Catz piece of crap and played with an official controller that's hanging on for dear life, the game actually worked and my mind was blown. Other smaller issues I've noticed so far is button mapping. Of course, the Dreamcast controller is not blessed with as many buttons as the PlayStation 2. In fact, I think it has like 5 fewer buttons plus 1 less analog movement stick. So I noticed a few dual inputs, which I don't know if were intentional or not. Maybe, desperate times call for desperate measures, not having enough buttons for everything, or perhaps some wires were crossed, but I think it's something that they could look into for the next build. And my biggest complaint of all, the one thing that stops this from being a truly magical and beautiful experience, is the radio stations. Music and commentary from DJs is a massive part of GTA's identity. It brings in a lot of satire and nostalgia. But here, in this version, the radios reset every time you get into a car. So you'll be hearing the same radio intros and songs every time you get in and out of your vehicle, which is all the bloody time if you wreck as many cars as I do. This is what I want fixed the most because it's such an integral part to the enjoyment for me. And I know GTA 3 didn't go fully into that as of yet. The song list is small, especially with like classic songs, but I want to hear Debbie Harry, alright? But aside from that, I've been having a really fun time and I can't wait to see how much this port progresses in the coming year. I have heard the longer you play, like Act 2 is especially ropey, it may be worth playing just to have fun with it for now, rather than intending to dedicate time to completing it. But has anyone ever completed a GTA game? Don't we all just pretend to adhere to traffic laws 1 minute and then cause chaos the next? Has anyone seen the end credits? I don't think I have. It's just a playground, right? But I do think we need to give credit to the Dreamcast a bit more than we did before this. And just think about the potential the console could have had if it lived just 2 or 3 years longer than it did, so that developers could really dig in to what the console was capable of. I know GTA 3, despite being a huge title for the time, on the whole, it is a rudimentary PS2 game. Comparing the graphics and scope of it to San Andreas, it's night and day. I would not expect the Dreamcast to pull off that one. But those early couple of years, if the Dreamcast went toe-to-toe with the PS2, we might have seen a different story in Sega's history. If the Dreamcast got Max Payne like it was supposed to, maybe, I don't know, Dynasty Warriors 2, if it got games like those, maybe people and Sega would have stuck with it longer. Or maybe the Dreamcast was doomed from the start, releasing too early for its own good. But that is another topic for another video. Liberty City, arise! You're listening to my final thoughts about this: if someone has ported Grand Theft Auto 3 to the Dreamcast, I feel very disappointed that they prioritize this game over Jambo Safari. If GTA 3 is possible, I demand Jambo Safari on the Dreamcast by the end of the year. I'm gonna put a bounty on it, $20, alright? You've got like 360 days something left. In all seriousness though, keeping things grounded, what would you like to see ported to the Dreamcast? I've mentioned this before in my big Star Wars games retrospective, but Sega made an absolutely banging Star Wars arcade trilogy game. Short, but oh so sweet, and I would love to see that on the Dreamcast rather than being left on the Model 2 arcade. It is 100% possible. Like, if GTA 3 is here, that can be too. Let me know in the comments below, what would you like to see passionate Dreamcast fans and coding wizards make possible on Sega's final console? Let me know. Have a good day.